Damn. It's on P. My phone is trying to die. No. Okay. It's on P. What's going on with my hair? Where's my hat? I look like a damn. I was doing my nails. I'm discombobulated. I'm late. I was doing the nails. So, what's up, peeps? This is Moor Camille. So, I thought it would be funny to talk about being a Moor during holiday season because it's starting to get cold and I had some flashbacks of my childhood that made me laugh. So, first of all, you know, those of y'all that don't know, my mom was a Grand Chief's daughter. So, needless to say, I was in the temple from birth till we left Pennsylvania. So, I didn't go to school till I was 8 or 9. I missed school on Fridays because Friday is more holy day, like Sunday is to European for Christianity. So, I didn't go to school on Friday. I didn't start school till I was 9. And I didn't go to school on Moorish holidays. So can you imagine the amount of tests I missed? It was rough. It was rough. So, one of my first memories about me being different from the other children was, I'll start with the beginning of the year. So our Xmas holiday is January 8th. It's Noble Drawley's birthday, and that's our Xmas. That's when we can exchange gifts, so on and so forth. So, all the other children went back January 1st. And had all their toys, their new clothes, yada yada. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, I'm still in my old stuff. Not only am I still in my old stuff, but I'm not bragging about anything new I have or anything because I didn't have anything yet. Because it wasn't our gift exchange. There was no Christmas tree. That's a European tradition. So no Christmas tree, no gifts. I had nothing new. So the week after everyone came, and of course they teased me and whatever, because they knew I was different. Because they had seen me and my brother and his fez leaving the house on Friday evenings. And me and my mom and our turbans leaving the house on Friday evening. So the children knew that I was different, but they didn't know how or what my traditions were. So just, they just teased me because I didn't eat meat, called me a rabbit, children are terrible. And honestly, I think that's part of the reason why I ran away from the religion, because I'm like, is there something better? Because I'm just cerebral like that, and I'm like, okay, I love what I learned, but is there more? So I went off trying to learn other things just to come back because that's what's in my heart. That's what's in my spirit. That's what I had since childhood. So if I'm going to pray, I feel like you need to pray appropriately. You need to pray in a way that's appropriate for you and in a way that your spirit agrees with. So just my take on things. So, so the following week was our Xmas, and I was off for days, from like, if the 7th fell on the weekday, I was off the day before to the end of the week. She didn't care. She was like, send her work. So my friends would bring my homework to my door and I would do my homework, and they didn't squabble about it because she had gone to the temple and got a religious excuse. And you got to remember, this is the 70s, early 80s. So people didn't dispute things back then like they did. If you had a religious reason for being off, if you were of a different religion, you had proof from wherever your temple, synagogue, church, whatever it was, they could dispute it. But that may be one of the reasons why they separated church and state, because they wanted to separate everybody's ability to um damn, separate everybody's ability to use religion as a way to teach and mentor their own children in their own way, because removing religion from school gives the idea that no religion is allowed. It's supposed to be just Christianity they're removing, so I thought. But maybe they're keeping everyone from. Well, anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. So, so I would come back with my stuff, and oh my God, the teas. Not only that, I was poor, so some of my gifts might have been Woolworths, Goodwill, a used bike, um, just who knows. So let's roll on to this. So then Easter would come, and another European holiday. Not that we didn't have our own. I'll do a video on our holidays and what it meant to us. But I call them European holidays because, oh, excuse my mess, I'm packing. I call them European holidays because I'm trying to get my camera to spin around. I'm telling y'all, this phone gives me all the grief. Are we going to spin? There we go. Excuse my mess, I'm packing. So, Easter would come, and we can't celebrate Easter. That's a no-no. And even though Jesus is in the Quran, he's more of a messenger than a deity. So, the whole, and it's funny because if you look back into the history of these holidays, it's not the appropriate date. It's not an appropriate celebration, but the European uses holidays in a way to make us all feel as though we are one while they play puppet master. Because if you're praying or celebrating your own demise and you don't know that, because a lot of these holidays, there's a book by Dr. Shakamusa Bershango, African holidays and no European holidays, and what is it? European holidays and how it affects Africa. Dang it, I have the book somewhere. Is it under my bed? I keep books close by. African holiday. What the hell is this? Where's this book at? Dang it. I don't see it. Anyway, it's by Shakamusa Bershango, and it's about European holidays. You gotta look it up because he breaks down European holidays and the real meaning behind, like Halloween. I mean, he breaks it down and gives you a background because he was a theologian and a professor, and so he studied religions. So anyway, after I read that book, it made me laugh because I was like, this is the reason why Moors don't celebrate these holidays, because they understand how Europeans use celebration in order to make us think that we're part of their clan, their society, and it's a lie. So anyway, Noble Drawley was on point about that. Like, separate yourselves, because holidays bring up emotions. Emotions leave you unguarded and vulnerable because you feel as though the celebration is uniting you with the rest of the country, but you're not a part of anything they're doing or anything they're building, and they don't want you here. So you're celebrating for naught, but you don't know that. So Easter would come. I wasn't chasing any eggs. There was no dying eggs. There was no candy. But a couple days after, when it went on sale, my mom would go to the store and she would give us candy. She was like, you can eat these candies now because it's not the Europeans' holiday. Same thing will happen 4th of July. She would get sparklers, but there was no cooking. There were no, I mean, and it was always like this. Halloween, she would She would go buy the candy, but we had to stay in the house. There was no costumes. Actually, she might not have bought the candy until the day after when it was on sale. Now that I think about it, my mom's there was just a no. Like it was a no. So, ooh, my battery's dying. So I just thought it was funny to talk about the fact that during holiday season, I always felt, excuse my phone, I don't know what's up with my phone. During the holiday season, I always felt out of place. And I always felt like strange, different. But you don't know when you're little that different is good. And that different was teaching you to have a different perspective on people, on society, on the way you think, on the way you interact. Just like your basis for existence is different because, and my mother used to say, I know y'all don't believe that some European comes to this neighborhood, comes to this house. She didn't even say this neighborhood, comes to the house and brings presents. Why would he do that? And it made perfect sense. She didn't let us run to the ice cream truck because she knew that song was Enter Wants a Watermelon, ha 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 ha. You could look it up on YouTube. Like she knew that song was derogatory. So she never let us go to the ice cream truck. Like there's so many things in hindsight that I didn't pass down to my children because I was unsure about what I had learned. And I think it was in part because my mother was fanatical because she was unwell. And when you're raised in a fanatical fashion and your things aren't explained to you and you're just told that this is how you should think, then you tend to run away from these things because you feel like they've been forced upon you. And you have to, for me, I have to study things. I had to study things on my own to see the value in them. And I wish there were I trust that that I have passed down more things that I knew to my children because now that they're older, I see their resistance. And I know a couple of them will come around, but I know of one of them that just, she's not going to because she is the one who wants to be socially accepted and she doesn't want to be different. So I can see her not wanting to, you know, play a part in Moorish tradition, which is fine. They can do it. I'm not that parent. Like they can do what they want to do. I did. I'm a free spirit, but I came back to what I knew because for me it was a good choice to make. And I think since my mother left, my mother always told me to. And there's a lot of things put in place that were being worked on before all the Moors of power were removed and these agents replaced them. And LLC, the temple, was never meant to be part of the government because it being part of the government removed the use of the treaty and all these other rules and laws and things that protected Moors on this continent. So anyway, no holidays for me. There was no Christmas. There was no Thanksgiving. My mother didn't let me go to people's houses on these holidays. That was a no. I couldn't even spend the night at my friends' homes. Like me growing up for me was just so different. I always felt so picked on and so sad and so, I thought my mother was being so mean. I did not realize that there had been things put in place to protect me from being treated the way that those who did not know our background or our status on this continent, what it was, they didn't know what their status was on this continent. So my mother wanted me to carry on with and teach the knowledge of that to my children, and I failed at that. Well, I didn't fail all the way. I told them about the religion and I gave them the background, but I allowed them to have the choice of whether or not they were practiced because I don't believe in forcing anything on anybody. That's part of the reason why people are Christians to this day, because it was forced upon them. I don't believe that idea is so close to the heart like religion, your moral code. Everybody's is different, and you can't impose those ideas upon other people because it does them no good. What is it? What is it? Pearls before swine. If they can't do anything with the information, then don't endow them with it, because it's a waste of your time and theirs. So I don't know. It was rough. But half of the Moorish holidays I don't even remember. I have to restudy. I still remember the questionnaire. Like it's still dear to my heart, but I have to restudy. Honest and for true. I know I'm a Moor because my birth certificate says so, and I remember being 2 or 3 in the temple answering questions. So I know that's the right place for my spirit to be, for me to be mentally, spiritually. I know that's where I need to be. But as a child, I felt so different, so left out, so picked on. And I now know that in order to have a brighter future, we as people have to sacrifice. And that's the lesson I should have learned from that. It makes me teary because I should have known that, but I young and stupid. Um, that sacrifice of not being like everyone else is why I'm not like everyone else. Is why I'm not that all that is why I'm not running the streets on drugs, on crack, being a prostitute, all the things that my pain and life experience would typically lead me to has not. I feel like that's because my foundation was so strong. Because with a schizophrenic mother and a family so unwell, it still happens that I'm still a pretty sturdy ship. I mean, water leaks in every once in a while, see? Water leaks every once in a while. But I'm still a pretty sturdy ship under the circumstances. So I didn't realize that sacrifice was going to make me who I was. But I appreciate it now. And that's why I wanted to talk about being different and the different holidays and just to say that you don't have to do what the European does. There are many people who come to this continent and don't practice any of the things the European practice. And he accepts that because he has no choice. And we need to remember that when we're spending our money, our hard-earned dollars, and lying to our children about who has acquired these things that they wake up to. And we need to remember that all we're doing is glorifying the European. Because if a child thinks that everything great and everything pleasurable that happens to him at the end of the year, and that all he has to look forward to is the end of the year, Xmas, New Year's, and tax return season. If that's all we teach our children to look forward to, is something that the European hands to them or gives them, then who are we? Because we no longer are caring for ourselves, we no longer respect ourselves, and we no longer have the strength, the dignity, or the respect for ourselves to do for ourselves and provide for ourselves. So we have to get out of the idea of teaching our children that everything good and great comes from the European. The white man's ice is colder. We got to get away from that. He's not the only. He's not even that intelligent. I mean, he's not anything to compare us to. Morally, spiritually, he's not the same. And I don't mean to badger him, but look what he's done to a whole planet in a few hundred years of his reign. He's a miscreant and he's destructive. And I don't think he knows how to behave differently. And of the few of his people who don't do it, with enough threat and fear, they would be easily wrangled in. So we still need to stand on our own, you know. So it's okay to be different. It's okay to learn something else. It's okay to go where your spirit leads you. As long as it strengthens you, it doesn't weaken you, it doesn't lead you astray, and it doesn't keep you dependent on the European. But actually, maybe tomorrow, well, tomorrow I'm going to talk about growing up being an empath and not knowing it, because the knowledge of knowing what that actually was when I got older was just, it was the greatest thing. But I'll do one this week on that book of Shaka Musa Bear Shango talking about the holidays, because it's holiday season and I probably should cover some of the things he said and how it makes sense in regard to the way I was raised also. So anyway, I just thought it would be fun to talk about how I didn't celebrate any of these holidays and how I felt like my mother was being mean and I was being tortured, and it wasn't that at all. It was to make me different on purpose so that I wouldn't look to those things and I wouldn't be wrangled into the Europeans' tricks. And I didn't even know it, but I know now. So anyway, this is Moor Camille. I do this because I love y'all. I love y'all to pieces. And I want us to find joy in ourselves and each other, so we won't have to look outside for it. And I want us to be stronger in our hearts, minds, and spirits so that we stay on this continent and on this planet, and especially on this continent because it belongs to us. And I want to see us have it back, and we have to do better, which means we have to change our minds first, because until we change our minds, our actions won't change. And that's why I do this, because I love you, and we have to be better. And on that note, this is Moor Camille signing out. And I'm going to say peace and good evening. And I will see you all tomorrow.